Yeah. Yo, step into the ring where the stories get raw. Junkyard James spitting truth, no flaw. Beyond the junkyard, the tales collide. Wrestling's wild side, come and take the ride. Chairs fly, ropes snap, legends unfold. Every move, every slam, the drama is gold. From the underground brawls to the title fights, we break it all down under spotlight nights. Beyond the junkyard, where the stories get told. Steel cages, bright lights, the moment's so bold. From the past to the future, the match stays strong. Junkyard James, keep it real all day long. Tune in, strap up, it's about to get wild. Powerbomb the truth, no sugar, no mild. Every heel, every face, every match that burns. The junkyard delivers, now it's your turn. So hit play, no delay, the bell has rung. Beyond the junkyard, where the legends are sung. Junkyard James got the mic in his grip. Wrestling podcast vibes, now let's take the trip.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. I am your host, Junkyard James. This is a solo Saturday show, the only show of the week for the Junkyard Media Group for the next couple of weeks. I'm sure you were wondering, where were the guys on Thursday? We're going to take the next couple of weeks off to just refresh and get that live stream back and running here. But in the meantime, you do get the Saturday episode, so I appreciate it if you tune in and listen to this. There are a couple things that I need for you all to do for me. If you're watching on YouTube, that is, hit that like button, comment below, share this with your friends, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. That way you are notified every single time we go live on the live stream or upload a video. And it's been a pretty good week in pro wrestling. There's been a lot of stuff being talked about and said and done, and returns that we got to talk about. I got a jam-packed show for you. We're going to introduce a new segment to start the show here in just a moment. Which I'm going to call the segment "Shut Your Mouth, Motherfucker," and we'll introduce that segment here in a moment. We're going to talk about Riho. She's back in AEW, and we're going to talk about her and why I think so many people are, for a lack of a better term, triggered at her being back in AEW. We'll talk about AJ Lee, the good, the bad, and everything in between of her return as she showed up Friday night on SmackDown in Chicago. She is back in pro wrestling. We'll talk about her, and then we're going to end the show with the monologue. I'm going to have a message for casual wrestling fans. And I think that's going to be a good part of the show for you. And stay tuned for that to listen to that part of the episode. And then we'll close out of here. I'll tell you, I'll reiterate the purpose of what Beyond the Junkyard is meant to be. But before we get into the show, I got to thank all of the affiliates with us. That's WWE Shop. Like I said, AJ Lee is back. They dropped some merch for her. Link in the description box below. Help support the podcast. Get your WWE merch. I know a lot of people talk about, well, you talk a lot of nonsense about WWE. Why are you a WWE affiliate podcast? To which I got to say, I don't hate the WWE. I hate the direction that their company is going. I hate the way that they are doing business. I don't like the way they do business. But I am a wrestling fan, and I want to support the wrestling business. I want to support the wrestling industry. And so WWE Shop is just a way for me to allow my viewers to have a direct link to support the podcast by getting WWE merchandise. Look, if you want to get your merchandise from some other podcaster, like at the end of the day, like I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I don't really care. Like I'm not in this for the money, but this is an opportunity that we were given to be an affiliate of WWE Shop. We're going to take it, we're going to run with it, but we're going to be real with how we talk about the product. And right now, the business part of WWE is a big gray cloud over any good on screen. And so I'm going to be real with that. But for those who listen who want to get their WWE merch and support the podcast, we appreciate that support. And we have the link for you. Same thing with StubHub. If you want to get your WWE tickets on StubHub, if you want to get your pro football tickets through StubHub, if you want to get basketball tickets, if you want to support the podcast, there's a link for StubHub in the description, and we would appreciate the support. Again, if you want to just go through StubHub Direct and not use our link, I'm okay with that. Because again, it's not about the money. We just have these opportunities. Dubby Energy has a discount code for you guys to help support the podcast, but it also allows you to use the discount code Beyond the Yard for 10% off. And again, if you don't want to use my code, if you don't even want, I'm not going to hate you. I'm just going to throw out that there's an energy product that gives top quality energy mix powder, and there's no harsh chemicals and everything. It's all natural ingredients without all the BS at pretty decent prices. And I got a discount code for you to help support the podcast, but also to save some money. So Beyond the Yard at w.gg. And then lastly, rss.com. If you ever thought about podcasting, you can help support the podcast by going through our link, getting a subscription to rss.com. It helps support the podcast. I don't expect anything to come out of it. The links are available. We're not in it for the money. We're here because we're wrestling fans and we like talking about our thoughts on the business of pro wrestling, not necessarily the product. Because the product, I don't have any say in what the product is, but I can give you my opinion on what gets put on the show, how I feel about the show, how I feel about the business of pro wrestling. And my voice isn't large enough to change anything, so I'm not going to be here trying to call for change. I'm just going to say this is bad, this is good, this is everything in between. If you don't want to support the podcast with the links, it won't hurt my feelings, but I would appreciate it if you like this podcast. The biggest thing for me would be to like, comment, and subscribe so that we can build this channel, so that we can build a bigger network. There is a Discord linked below, the Real Wrestling Community Discord, that I want to see people who love WWE, who love TNA, who love New Japan, who love AEW, who love pro wrestling, join the Real Wrestling Community. And there's going to be people from all over the spectrum, hopefully, that join this community, and we can have conversations to where if you like AEW, you can talk to AEW fans. If you like WWE, you can talk to WWE fans, and you can have the intermingling, and hopefully, wrestling as an industry blossoms because people continue to watch, and that we can cross-pollinate and grow the business, if that makes sense. So Discord link below. But let's get into the show. Bully Ray. Listen, my guy. You're one of the most decorated tag team champions in the entire wrestling industry of all time. One of the most decorated tag team champions. But Bully Ray, listen, my friend, I need you to do one thing. I need you to shut your mouth, motherfucker. And this is why. Here we go. I don't know if anybody saw this. I'm going to pull it up. Bully Ray said on social media on X the other day, unfortunate, but AEW as a product is lost. There's certainly some bright spots, but as a company, it lacks definitive direction. It is what it is. A company owned and operated by a fan with lots of money. TK, Tony Khan, a good guy with a good heart, but he's not a booker. And quote, the boys know it. We scroll down to the first comment is Ricochet, the light-skinned kingpin, and quote unquote, the boys know it, question mark. What an ignorant thing to say. And that's kind of what I got to say. Bully Ray, listen, buddy, when's the last time you've been relevant in the industry? You're trying to nostalgia book yourself into Bound for Glory at TNA. And just for one last hoorah with the Hardys, living off a moment 20 plus years ago, because that's the only thing that keeps you relevant. The only reason people talk about the Dudleys is because of the TLC match at WrestleMania between the Hardys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys. And it was a great moment in time. But no one's ever left a Bully Ray match, singles or tag team, saying, this man's the greatest wrestler of all time. He may have had some good moments, but there's only two things that I remember Bully Ray for. The first, as I said, is that six-man tag match, TLC match. The second was the time where Bully Ray, it was an ECW, I think it was, and he went off unscripted, calling the fans fat and whores and whatever else in between. And it's one of his most famous popular promos of his entire career, where he degraded all of the fans. And I wonder is if Bully Ray's promo happened in today's wrestling business, how modern day Bully Ray would respond to it. I'm sure he would call it childish or irresponsible or not a good moment in the wrestling landscape. And you can't criticize and name call and demean your fans. They bought a ticket. And what I seem to see from the old heads of the wrestling business is they're trying to hold on to any semblance of power they have in the wrestling business, and they're resistant to see the new generation of pro wrestlers change the business. They would say that they are killing the business, but the reality of the situation is the business isn't being killed, it's being changed. And the old heads don't want to see the business change. What is absolutely hilarious is Bully Ray was part of ECW when they were trying and taking shots at WWE for competing head-to-head against them. People like Eric Bischoff were part of actively going head-to-head against WWE in WCW. And yet they were okay with criticizing and pointing out how WWE were bullies back then, but they kind of turn a blind eye now that they have those Legends contracts. And before people, it's he mentioned the Legends deal again. I'm certain Bully Ray, even if he didn't have a Legends contract, would feel the same way. I'm not saying because Bully Ray has a Legends contract, he's out against AEW. I'm certain without the Legends deal, he would feel the same way, because the way he grew up in the business is different than the way AEW is doing business, and that's okay. But what these people, what Bully Ray, what these old heads need to understand is the business is changing. It's a little bit different. And you can't expect AEW to run the same way you ran your business, your company ran 30 years ago. I'm sure at some point in time, ECW was told, well, they certainly have some bright spots, but as a company, ECW lacks definitive direction. I'm sure at some point in time, WCW was told that they lacked definitive direction. And I'm sure that would have pissed Bully Ray off if somebody had said that ECW lacked definitive direction. I'm sure Eric Bischoff would have gone on Monday Nitro and badmouthed somebody if they had said WCW lacked definitive direction and was a company owned by a fan with lots of money. And so, Bully, listen, dog, like you are one of the most decorated champions in tag team wrestling history. But why are you going to these lengths to stay relevant? Does anybody realistically listen to what Bully Ray has to say and think, that makes sense? That's good business. He totally understands the landscape of AEW. No, I don't. I don't view these old heads who have no knowledge of the locker room of AEW, what they say about what goes on in the locker room. The boys know it, as if the boys are scared to criticize Tony Khan. No. You just need to shut up, Bully, before you tarnish the rest of your legacy. All right. Let's continue. All right. AEW Dynamite Wednesday night. Mercedes Moné had a TBS title opportunity on the line against Alex Windsor. Mercedes Moné and Alex Windsor tore the house down on Wednesday. Mercedes Moné retains the belt, and Riho comes back after a year plus being on the shelf with injuries and I'm sure travel difficulties. She, as far as I am aware, is her main residency is in Tokyo, Japan, or somewhere in Japan. And same thing with Hikaru Shida. There are difficulties getting them to the States. But Riho finally is back in AEW. She gets a TBS title opportunity at All Out in just a few weeks in Toronto. And why does this 95-pound woman trigger so much of the WWE fan base? Because immediately upon her return, you got two reactions from the people who love watching AEW. It was, Riho is back, let's fucking go. I can't wait to see this match with Mercedes Moné. And then on the other side of the aisle, you have the people saying, Riho is back. AEW is doomed. This lady doesn't do anything for me. You get the Jim Cornettes who just go on 40-minute rants about how Riho is back and blah, blah, blah. They just trigger her. She just triggers them. And I don't really understand why. But I think I have an idea. It's because Riho personifies what it means to be an AEW fan. She's really good in the ring. She isn't super great telling stories in the way that like WWE fans expect stories to be told. She's not a great promo because she speaks Japanese. She's not but she works hard. She's the underdog. She's David fighting Goliath in every opportunity, and she is the personification of an AEW homegrown talent, right? Because when they see Riho, they see somebody who didn't change lanes, that stayed the course, that Kenny Omega supports, right? Like they've even gone so far on social media to be like Riho only gets these opportunities because she sleeps with Kenny Omega, as if there's any actual proof to prove that. But yet I've seen it several times on social media this week. But God forbid I say WWE's a bully. Oh, you're disparaging. You're disparaging the WWE. You're slandering them. But Tony Khan does coke and Kenny Omega sleeps with Riho, and there's no actual proof of either, and that's not slander. Come on. Double standard. Anyway. I think it's because Riho is not what the average American fan wants. Because the average American fan wants what Shawn Michaels signs every 6 months. A 5'7" hot model blonde. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with a 5'7" hot model blonde. But Riho is a 5'2" Japanese woman. Io Sky gets the same hate because she's a Japanese woman. And there is this idea in the American wrestling industry that if you can't cut a perfect English promo, you don't deserve TV time in America. But wrestling is a global business. And Riho is not just an American wrestler, she wrestles in Japan as well. And that's the reason why because she gets a lot of TV time on American TV as an outsider to what they have designed in their mind to be the only style of person that should get TV time on American television. Speaks English, looks a certain way, wrestles a certain way, talks a certain way. And because she doesn't check any of those boxes, she's automatically criticized. Riho's 28 years old, I think, and she's been wrestling since she's like 11. She has more experience in the ring than the majority of WWE's roster. She's worked her ass off to get to where she is. And yes, Kenny Omega has vouched for her, has wrestled with her, is a good close acquaintance with Riho. And I won't be so naive as to say that she hasn't gotten opportunities in the past because of that relationship. But what business does that not happen in? Business in general is typically who you know, not what you can do. That's why it's important to build good relationships with people with higher power, people with pull in your company. And it's not on Riho that she has a good relationship with Kenny Omega. But the reality of the matter is Riho is fighting for the TBS championship, which just by definition is typically a title that isn't your main story title. Typically, the matches come together last minute as if it's like open rules, open challenges, We had a 4-way for the TBS belt at Forbidden Door last month. And Mercedes Moné put the belt up against 3 different women who had outside of Alex Windsor, had 0 contact with Mercedes Moné for the majority of the time. They were just chosen by CMLL or chosen by Stardom to be the representative of the company. It was an open challenge. Put your best woman forward to see if they can beat Mercedes Moné. And so what difference is this? Riho attacks Moné. Riho wants a title shot. Because we're looking in the past a couple years ago, Mercedes Moné's debut, they interacted in the backstage area. Riho and Mercedes Moné had a heated stare down. So Riho comes back from her injuries, and her first line of business is, "I'm coming for that belt." But the reality of the situation is, this isn't taking the spotlight off of the women's division. The reality of the situation is, this is just a match to get Mercedes Moné another really good match with another really a good win against a former AEW World Champion, to get her closer to Wrestle Dream so she can beat Jade Cargill's record as longest TBS champion in history. In fact, the booking that Mercedes Moné is having is very similar to the booking that Jade Cargill had as TBS champion. Just domination. The only difference is Jade Cargill didn't work any of the indies. And so Jade Cargill is fine with the way she was booked, but Mercedes is not, because she, again, is a personification of everything the typical casual WWE fan hates. Indie wrestling. International wrestling. Non-Americanized styles of wrestling. And that's just what it is. That's what triggers them. Is that's what Tony Khan's putting on TV. But at the end of the day, why are they talking? And I'll get to this in more detail later on in the show. But if they're not watching weekly, why does their opinion matter? Because the people that are watching weekly are loving this. I wasn't quite sure why Riho targeted Mercedes Moné off of my first instant memory, but I'm willing to bet 3 minutes after it happened, after Riho re-debuted and attacked Mercedes Moné, there were people that were already showing that they have had conflict in the past before. The hardcore AEW fan has a long-term memory. They understand the long-term stories. They understand the implications, that there may be a breadcrumb now that they don't close the door on, and people have to wonder, why did they do that? So that it could be 18 months later, they can bring it back to that moment. See, Tony Khan's booking is a little different. And because Tony Khan has a different version of how to book with people like Riho and Adam Page and etc., they trigger this just absolutely disgusting response out of WWE casual fans. So I don't know the actual reason why people get butthurt over Riho. But I think it's because she's the personification, in person, in living color, of everything they hate. A non-American woman in pro wrestling. Because let's just be honest. If women's wrestling ceased to exist in WWE, I think half of the wrestling fans in WWE wouldn't care. Or if they had women's wrestling like it was in 2003, bra and panty matches, pretty blonde girls with nicely manicured bodies and looking like, cheerleaders, shaking their ass and taking their bra and panties off live on TV, I'm sure the majority of the WWE fan base would be okay. But if there's a woman who busts her ass, not American, not blonde, not hot, and the Americanized version of beauty standards, doesn't have, doesn't have the perfect physique that they're looking for, they don't want it. And they refuse to allow it to exist in their dimension of what pro wrestling is. And so that's why Riho triggered him, because she's not American, she's not blonde, she's not stereotypically hot, and she's a better wrestler than storyteller. And that's everything. She doesn't check off any box that the casual wrestling fan looks for. And so they hate her for it, because she has succeeded going outside of the box. And that's why she gets triggered. But the reality of the situation is that Riho literally is the same size as AJ Lee. But AJ Lee is loved by millions of casual wrestling fans. And I love AJ Lee myself. Riho is called too small, to this, to that, to whatever. And AJ Lee gets a free pass. She returned last night on SmackDown to a really good pop. I didn't watch live, but I saw the clip on social media. The pop was great. The moment, I'm sure, was great. Women's wrestling changed because of AJ Lee. But there's no intrinsic difference between AJ Lee and Riho. They wrestle similar styles. AJ Lee has better English, but she has the same physique. She has the same looks. She loves wrestling. She is, in my opinion, everybody gives the four horsewomen the nod of creating the women's revolution. Without AJ Lee, the four horsewomen don't exist in WWE. Without AJ Lee, women's wrestling may not even exist in the WWE. So yes, as a fan of pro wrestling, I am ecstatic that AJ Lee is back. I am ecstatic because she left on not so good circumstances, and I hope she gets the correct, proper exit this time, that she is allowed to go out on a good note. I always had the impression that when she retired from wrestling, she was forced out of the WWE because of her relationship with CM Punk. And it seems like fences are mended. She's back in the company now. And so I hope she gets a good last run. But the reality of the situation is that while AJ Lee's return is great, and you saw not only just the social media reaction, but people who actually are now pro wrestlers react to the fact that AJ Lee is back, because she was the one that got them into wrestling. AJ Lee and the Bellas are women's wrestling. When you think of women's wrestling at its peak in the modern time, it was AJ Lee and the Bellas. They got so many young women, young girls to want to become wrestlers. And because of that, you have this new generation of pro wrestling. But the reality of the situation is AJ Lee in her return, my fear is that what the pro is, which is the nostalgia, right? The nostalgia of the situation is a pro, but also a con. Because we know that WWE has perfected nostalgia booking, has perfected what it means to be a legend in the game. You saw it at the beginning of the year. I want to read this post by someone I follow on social media that I think exemplifies my reaction to AJ Lee's response. AJ Lee's return will not change the landscape of the WWE. This person says, I'll start off by saying I don't have an issue with AJ Lee coming back. Returns are always fun in the moment, but let's not pretend this is going to change WWE in any real way. Sure, her return smacked them with a ratings pop, but like clockwork, the numbers will slide right back into the decline. Attendance will stay flat, cheers will shrink, and the machine will dilute the whole thing until it feels like every other quote-unquote historic return that faded out fast. WWE fans have a habit of overhyping everything. Earlier this year, they tried to sell John Cena's heel turn as the greatest angle of all time, only for it to crash and burn, with fans blaming everybody except Triple H when it didn't stick. It's the same pattern every time. They will scream that Tony fumbled whenever someone jumps from AEW, claim WWE will give them the push of a lifetime, and then months later, that same talent is mid-card at best, maybe stuck in a tag team, or simply irrelevant. Fans will justify it by saying, at least they're doing something, but doing something isn't the same as making an impact. AJ Lee will be no different. Nostalgia will carry her for a bit. She'll get moments that look good on highlight reels, but even on her first night back, you can hear the energy dip as the segment went along. It's just like Cena's flop heel turn, just like Andrade, Ricky Starks, Penta, Rey Fenix, and others before her, the hype will fade. This isn't about AJ as a performer. It's about WWE's rinse and repeat cycle. Big return, big pop, big hype, and then reality sinks in. And I've been talking about that same thing with these people that come from AEW to WWE. I've been talking about it for months. Like a Dragon Lee. Wasn't he supposed to be the next big luchador? Where's he? What about Ricky Starks? What about Ethan Page? I know they're constantly in feuds on NXT. I don't watch it, so I don't know exactly what titles they're going for at the moment. What about Mariah May? And I told you this when Mariah May left. I said, I'm happy she fulfilled her dream. My concern for it was how they were going to book her. And they tried to paint her as something different, right? They tried to give her a different gimmick than what her AEW gimmick was. They made her Brooke Monroe. They gave her like this Sabrina Carpenter-esque appearance. And it's fallen flat. She had a big pop. The big Tony fumbled moment happened. She had a mini feud. But has she had an opportunity to win a title? Has she made an impact in NXT? Where is she at now? Look at Lexis King. I mean, the man's in the mid card. I've even seen NXT fans say it's time for the Lexus King project to end. Where's Sean Spears? Where's Penta? Where's Ray Phoenix? WWE does the same exact thing with every return. Big pop, big social media presence. They get the big moment, but they fail to execute long term. And this is what I have to say about that. WWE only cares about the big moments. They only care that AJ Lee's return at this time has 2.6 million views in 13 hours on YouTube on the WWE channel. Has 895,000 views on the WWE on USA channel. So about 4 million views in about 14 hours. They only care that they get those big moments. The biggest con is this idea that AJ Lee is going to have this grand return, that she's going to have, really great matches again, and she's going to, no, what's going to happen with AJ Lee is what has happened with every other return, with every other debut. She had her big moment. She'll have her moment in the sun. She'll beat Becky Lynch. She may win a women's US title opportunity or a women's intercontinental title opportunity. She may become a Triple Crown winner. But at the end of the day, you're not going to remember AJ Lee's second run in WWE for anything other than a few big moments. But the small moments in between the big moments will fade into oblivion. And let me just say, nostalgia booking at large is not a great way to run your company. You need to invest in the future. You need to invest in those who can bring the company forward for the next decade plus. It's why I am not a fan of when AEW does nostalgia booking, with the exception of Sting and his retirement ceremony. Sting deserved everything that he got in AEW. When the AEW perfected how you should nostalgia book with Sting. Put him in big moments, give him his opportunity to shine, but don't let it completely dominate the TV time in your company. Sting, his retirement run was just like any other run, and it ended with him winning AEW Tag Team Gold with Darby Allin. They immediately dropped the belt and now opened up opportunities for tag teams to win that belt. It was a perfect way to give the flowers to a man who has busted his ass for decades in the business. And it was nostalgia done perfect. WWE's way of doing nostalgia booking hasn't worked, and it hasn't worked for at least a year plus. The Rock comes back every now and again. It's a big pop, disappears. No reason for his return. Stone Cold shows up, drinks a couple beers, disappears. Hits a fan with his fucking ATV because he's probably 8 beers deep prior to a segment. Undertaker retires, but yet shows up every year at WrestleMania. It lessens the effect of the nostalgia. Sting retired. When's the last time we've seen Sting in AEW? Sting hasn't been seen. They did the nostalgia, they ended it, and it's gone. When's the last time Bryan Danielson had a match in AEW? They bring Bryan Danielson out for commentary, but he's done wrestling. Nigel has a few moments just for the British crowd to relish, but he doesn't win. He doesn't go over. He loses to Zack Sabre Jr. He put Zack Sabre Jr. over in a classic British strong style match. It comes down to the fact, and this is what I really think AJ Lee's return is. She's not going to get a memorable second run, in my estimation, because they didn't really want her to come back in the first place. They are only doing this because they are trying to one-up AEW. And I said this on social media last night. I said, by the way, I'm a big AJ Lee fan. I was devastated when she retired. But I just know WWE wouldn't have brought her back if it wasn't for them wanting to, quote unquote, stick it to AEW. I can't stand pettiness. And sadly, her return is simply because WWE is being petty. I hope she kills it. And I will be admiring from afar. This is a petty, what can you do to beat us moment. We brought AJ Lee back. Probably the biggest character in modern women's wrestling is AJ Lee. Everybody's been waiting for AJ Lee to come back. And now she's back. And everybody is happy. I'm happy. I want her to succeed. But I have the same reservations about her success that I did about Mariah May's transition to WWE, is that she has all the talent. AJ Lee looks in better shape than she did when she left. She's no doubt going to be able to put on really good moments and tell really good stories. My problem is you get past the Becky Lynch moment, what happens? Where does the nostalgia go? When the fans just don't really care that AJ Lee's back anymore, what do they do with her? How would you get to the point to where AJ Lee doesn't matter to the fans anymore? You can't run your entire show off of nostalgia. WrestlePalooza's biggest two matches, Brock Lesnar and John Cena, and then AJ Lee, CM Punk versus Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, it's nostalgia booking. Where's the future? But I digress. We're going to get to everybody's favorite part of the show. And that is the monologue. All right, as you can tell by the title of the episode, today's monologue is a message to casual wrestling fans. So, dear casual wrestling fans, AEW is not your product. It's not meant for you. So stop trying to make it what it isn't. Stop trying to ruin AEW. Let me tell you who AEW is for. AEW is for the sickos. It was literally built as an alternative wrestling promotion for those who were not fans of the casual-centric sports entertainment style of WWE. It was never meant to represent or replicate or imitate WWE in any shape or form. It was always meant for the fans who loved the hardcore in-ring centric style of pro wrestling. It was never meant to be a show that people can casually watch. From the very beginning, From day one, January 1st, 2019, when AEW was announced as a company, it was always meant to be a place for pro wrestling fans, not sports entertainment fans, but pro wrestling fans could sit back, chase the breadcrumbs, and watch really good matches and find out the stories, figure out where things are going. It's a puzzle. It is complex. It is not simple. You have to be an active participant in the show. You as a fan cannot just buy a ticket, sit in the crowd, and sit there and enjoy. You can't just turn on the TV and just turn your mind off to understand AEW. That is not the way the company has built its product. And by these casual fans, I hear it all the time. I used to love AEW, but now they don't represent the stuff that I want, and that's of course the point. It's the point. They're not going to have sports entertainment centric stories. They may have a little bit mingled in and there, right? So I think Chris Jericho's leaving because they have a change of heart. Remember, during the pandemic, there was a lot of sports entertainment in AEW. MJF had a musical with Chris Jericho. CM Punk came back, and CM Punk's stuff was very reminiscent of WWE. In some way, shape, or form, MJF's matches follow a typical WWE heel style match. Every match has a ref bump. MJF is one of those wrestlers who I think just appeals both the casuals and the hardcores. I love MJF, but I'm not afraid to admit that some of his in-ring psychology is very much resemblant of WWE style. And I'm okay with it because it works for MJF. But it doesn't work for everybody in AEW. It doesn't work for Jon Moxley. It doesn't work for Darby. It doesn't work for the majority of the division. Will Ospreay is not a WWE style wrestler. It doesn't work for him. Having these casual fans sit here and first off, let's just actually talk about it for a minute. Do we actually think these casual fans are sitting there week in and week out watching AEW? Watching stories play out? No, they were the first to criticize why Riho has a title opportunity. They don't even care. They were like, well, what's the point? Well, the point was 18 months ago, there was a breadcrumb left. And we're fulfilling the breadcrumb. We're fulfilling that piece of the story. They don't understand why Hangman Page is the main character. And the reason Hangman Page is the main character is because the journey that Hangman Page has gone on from day one resembles almost perfectly the battle of the human experience. That an antisocial, anxious person with demons and past traumas and the weight of the world on his shoulders has to fight the giant. Thought he reached the mountaintop, saw it crumble down on him, and has to work his way back to get it. That is a story that every human can understand. That is human experience. That if you don't stop fighting your dreams for your dreams, you can fulfill your dreams. But it was told in a way that was very resemblant to humanity. It made Hangman Page seem relatable. Hangman Page was not the classic white meat babyface superhero. He was an anti-hero with a bad checkered past who won over the fans because they can relate to him. That's why MJF is so relatable. Oh, well, MJF, he left Adam Cole, was betrayed by Adam Cole, and instead of doing this, he went back to meet other people. That is the human experience. You put your trust in a friend, that friend betrays you, so now there's this void, and so what do? You try to find another group to fill that void. That is human experience. That's what makes AEW so good, is that I can relate to what they're trying to tell me. I can't relate with Roman Reigns being some fake tribal chief. I can't relate to Seth Rollins. I can't. I love Seth Rollins. He's a really good wrestler. I can't relate to him. I can't relate to Seth Rollins trying to be some visionary. I don't get that from the human side of things. I guess the point of the matter is, for the people AEW is built for, they feel more closely related to the characters on the screen than the casuals who watch wrestling as if it's some TV show. To the people AEW is made for, it's not just a TV show. It is something that they're willing to invest a good majority of their spare time to figure out. They will watch BTE. They will watch ROH. They will watch every episode of Dynamite and Collision. They will pay the big money to watch the pay-per-views. They will watch, CMLL if MJF is there. They will watch New Japan for Takeshita during the G1 Climax. They will watch Mercedes Moné go to all these indie events because they care about the wrestlers on a level deeper than what the WWE fans care about these wrestlers for. WWE casual fans see the wrestlers as just a character, and when the camera turns off, they're a different person. And in reality, that may be the truth. Mercedes Moné is Mercedes Moné even when the camera is off. To the hardcore sickos, they don't see Mercedes Renato as anything different than Mercedes Moné. Mercedes Moné is Mercedes Renato, but on TV in a different light, more exaggerated. Jon Moxley was not your typical heel. He was a heel with good intentions. He wanted to make AEW he wanted to change the landscape of AEW. He had good intentions for doing it. His response by taking out everyone he felt was taking a shortcut and ruining AEW, that's what made him a heel. And is that not human experience? That sometimes we can go extreme. We can have such good intentions that we ultimately become the villain in the story, trying to change the scenario. Is that not the human experience that you have a friend who so often has good intentions that he's willing to sacrifice you for the benefit of his vision? It's so relatable. But the casual fans don't get it because they don't want relatable, they want stories. And because the way that Tony Khan tells stories doesn't fit the box. Again, it doesn't check the box of what they're comfortable with in WWE. They want AEW to become that. And it was never meant to be that in the first place. And so I have to say this to the casual fans. If you want to watch AEW, I implore that you do. I want more people to watch AEW because I believe within my heart of hearts that AEW is the best wrestling that you will see on weekly television. I have seen people who have gone from watching just the WWE to tuning in regularly the past couple months to AEW and absolutely embarking on AEW, becoming a sicko themselves. And they gave it a chance. What I need you to understand is that you cannot view AEW through WWE tinted lenses. Just like I can't view WWE through AEW lenses. They're not the same. The only thing that's the same with WWE and AEW is that they have a ring with 3 ropes and 4 turnbuckles. The style of wrestling in between that ring is different. The storytelling is told in different ways. And so you can't, it's like comparing apples to grapefruit. It's the same, but not really. They're both in the same position, but not really. They don't have the same flavor profile. They're for completely different people. People that typically think apples are the best fruit probably don't think citrus are the best fruits. Don't necessarily like citrus. People who love citrus probably think apples taste bland. People who love apples probably think citrus is a little bit sour, a little bit too strong of a flavor for them. And there are those that like both, and you're allowed to like both. I don't think this has to be them versus us. As I said in past episodes, was it the last episode? I can't remember. We need to work together because there's the actual battle is not just WWE versus AEW. It's WWE and AEW fighting against the rest of the entertainment world. And wrestling as an industry gaining market share. But I'm a realist. As much as I want everybody to watch AEW, I know it's not everybody's flavor. I know it's not everybody's style. I know it's too sharp on the palate sometimes. I know there's too much gore. I know there's too much graphic material. I know they cuss a little too much. I know the action isn't as cookie cut as AEW or as WWE is. I know with AEW, you're going to get more hardcore, realistic life experience style characters. And WWE, you're getting superheroes and supervillains fighting in a fake universe that once the camera's turned off, it's snapped back to reality. The casual fans cannot expect AEW to just merge with what they want. You have to understand that they're writing for something, for someone who is more invested, who does not accept basic as acceptable product. And Tony Khan, I think, has perfected his style. As closely perfected it as possible. There are things that I think Tony Khan does wrong. I think Tony Khan is a little bit too much of a people pleaser. But there have been things that Tony Khan has changed that I don't agree with. That he has put through creative that I don't agree with. Like flashback several months ago. Jeff Jarrett was calling out his opportunity to be a AEW world champion. Nothing ever came of that. It was a wasted moment. And I don't know what the purpose was. And I don't know if it was fan reaction was so bad it forced Tony Khan to change script. I don't know if that was the case. But it should have never made it to TV. But the big picture is, I get asked all the time, why don't you criticize Tony Khan? Why don't, as much as you criticize WWE? Because the mistakes that Tony Khan makes are minuscule in comparison to the mistakes that WWE is making. Your entire pay-per-view is nostalgia just to say, oh, I'm fucking with you. I'm fucking with you, Tony. You're bringing back Brock Lesnar. I'm not going to get into that. If you want to hear my thoughts on Brock Lesnar, I have a video on it. You're bringing back AJ Lee, I think just to spite AEW to say how we can get your fans to watch our show. You're doing nostalgia booking. You let Goldberg have a match on on Saturday night's main event. Nothing really came out of that with Gunther. Have we seen him since? I don't know. I don't watch the show. Just at the end of the day, the casual fans have to realize that you trying to make AEW into WWE Light is ruining the vibe of what AEW was intended to be. Why would you want AEW to replicate WWE? Nobody benefits from having a replica. Nobody benefits. The whole of the wrestling industry benefits by having different products. Imagine if McDonald's went to Wendy's. Or I'm sorry, let me back up. Imagine if somebody went to Wendy's expecting to get a Big Mac only to get Wendy's Dave's Double. They would be disappointed, would they not? Remember when Burger King, this is going to be funny. Somebody, I'm going to post this on TikTok or something. And somebody's going to say, of course, this fat ass is talking about food. But anyway, remember when Burger King tried to come in with the Big King, which is like a mockery of the Big Mac? Is it even on the menu still? I don't think it is. And if it is, it's not their, the Whopper is their thing. Trying to imitate the thing of another company, the style of another company, doesn't benefit anyone. Why would I watch the replica when I can watch the authentic piece? Nobody craves a screen printed version of a Van Gogh painting. The screen printed versions may go for $100. The real thing goes for billions of dollars, millions to billions of dollars. The screen printed replicas go for $100. Nobody wants a replica. And so why expect AEW to replicate WWE? It all comes back to this. If if your style is WWE, why not just watch WWE? Why not be a casual and watch WWE? And accept that that's your product, that's your style, that's your go-to flavor. And maybe every now and again you experiment and you try another flavor, and maybe that's MLW or AEW or CMLL or New Japan. Maybe you experiment, but it's not your go-to, and that'll be okay. Nobody says, like, oh, my go-to is the Big Mac. I might try Wendy's. I love going to McDonald's. That's my go-to fast food. But sometimes I just want to try something else, and then they complain about it not tasting like McDonald's. That never happens. So why, when you go out and say, I'm gonna step out of my flavor range, why are you complaining when it doesn't match your flavor? You should know it's outside of your palate. You should know what to expect when you watch AEW. It's been 6 goddamn years by now. You should know what AEW presents to you. It's not going to be different than the last time you watched it. It's the same thing. It's always been the same thing. The one time they tried to change it up, it failed miserably. So if it ain't your lane, it ain't your lane. But don't complain. Don't try to change it to make it your lane. Because it was never meant to be your lane in the first place. Casual wrestling fans, listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to me. AEW is not for you. Stop trying to make it about you. Stop trying to make it something that fits your style. Not everything's going to fit your style. Not everyone likes country music. Not everyone likes rap music. But I don't hear country music fans complaining when Lil Nas X drops another album or Drake drops another album, because they just ignore it. They just ignore it. Half the time I ignore what WWE does. It doesn't bother me. I see it. I see what they do, but it doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect me. I'm not a hardcore WWE guy. I will tune in occasionally. I will watch the pay-per-views. In fact, I'm kind of happy that Tony Khan changed the time of the show, because I do want to see AJ Lee in action. You know what I mean? I'm excited. I don't care about the rest of the show, but I do want to see AJ Lee. I do want to see her wrestle. There are things in WWE that I enjoy, the women's division being the main one. The rest of the show is dog shit. And it's okay for me to feel that way. That's my opinion. It's not objective fact. Have you not ever heard one man's trash could be another man's treasure? So just because I say it's dog shit, to me it is, to you it might not. It's not that serious. But stop trying to make AEW fit your flavor palette. It's not supposed to fit your flavor palette. And in the meantime, you're ruining the experience. I'm willing to bet there are people that are wanting to talk about how much they love AEW, but they don't publicly on social media because they know the backlash they'll get. I know there's people that want to criticize WWE, but don't, because they know they'll receive hate. And I'm okay speaking my mind, and there's nothing people can say to me that I haven't heard before. Oh, I'm an overweight man. Oh my God. You know, it doesn't bother me. I have thicker skin than most. But there are some people that can't take that heat. So they just stay silent. And you know, that's not what the wrestling world should be. The wrestling world should be a place where people can share their mind without being criticized for their opinion. They can criticize something without being told that their opinion is not relevant or that their opinion is whatever. You know what I mean? That their opinion doesn't matter. So casual fans, listen to me. It's not about you. It's not for you. AEW is for the sickos. End of story. Stop trying to change it. That's the monologue. All right, we're going to wrap the show up here. Again, if you stayed this whole time, this Saturday show is a little bit longer than I usually want them to be. But there was a lot I wanted to talk about in this episode, and I just want to end this show by just reiterating the purpose of what Beyond the Junkyard is. Right, there was some discourse in the Discord server, again, link in the description if you want to join, about the purpose of my show should be to inform people about why AEW is great or what's going on in AEW. And this show is not a recap show. If you want a recap show, go watch Fightful. They recap every show every night. And they're really good at doing that. Righteous Reg is really good. Alex, I can't pronounce his last name. I don't even want to. Alex Sour Graps, really good. Denise Salcedo, really good. There are a lot of talented people that give you the recap, play-by-play of what happens on the show. That has not been and will never be the purpose of this podcast. The purpose of this podcast is for me to take the social media buzz and give my opinions on what happens in social media wrapped around the wrestling industry. And we talk a little bit about matches. We talk a little bit about predicting the show and match cards. But I will never sit here and be like, this happened. And we may have done it some in the past. I am not a fan of that content. I don't sit there and watch, that content. That's not what I watch. When I watch wrestling, like Meltzer and Alvarez and all of them, that their outlets, like they do play by play. I watch the clips. I watch the 5-minute clips of their recaps. I don't watch the whole thing. I don't care enough to recap the show. And I'm of the opinion that if you care enough to listen to somebody bloviate about what happens on the show for 2 hours, you have enough time to watch the show yourself. It's uploaded to HBO Max the next day. $9 a month or $16 a month, I think, is a Max subscription. Most people have Max probably already. Turn it on. Don't come to me to watch for me to tell you what the show is about. Watch the damn show yourself. Watch the clips on YouTube. I'm not that guy. I'm here to give my opinion. This has never been a show saying that anything I say is factual. This is a lot of opinion. This is a lot of rant style content. And if that's not for you, then it's okay. Just like with AEW, I know my content is not made for everyone. I'm going to talk about WWE. I'm going to talk about AEW. I'm going to talk about wrestling in general. Because I am a wrestling fan at the end of the day who prefers AEW. I think AEW is on a really good trajectory. And at the end of the day, if that's not your style, then it doesn't bother me if you don't watch me. It doesn't bother me. I want people to watch. I make this content for people to watch and view and listen to an outsider's perspective. I don't have any knowledge of the wrestling business, and I'm up front with that. This is just my opinions. What I say should not be taken as literal fact. It should be taken as a man's opinion about wrestling. And if you expect anything else, you're expecting something wrong. And for those that sit there and watch episode after episode and listen week after week, I appreciate you. And I have an ask for you as we close this show. Hit that like button. Put a comment below. Share this video. Subscribe. Let's build something. Let's build people who care to hear just the harsh reality of the wrestling business. I try to keep politics and religion and all of that out of the show. I don't care about your opinion when I'm talking about wrestling on those matters. Right? I tend to try and keep my wrestling separate from my politics and my religion. They don't mix well together. I know half the people that I'm good acquaintances with in the wrestling industry probably have differing opinions on some political and religious beliefs. And that's okay. Because I think at the end of the day, wrestling in some way, shape, or form is made for everyone. Everyone should be able to enjoy some aspect of pro wrestling. And if AEW is not your style, then that's okay. We differ in that. If WWE is your style, then that's okay. Enjoy it. I just have one ask. Just like with voting, if you don't do it, don't complain. If you don't watch AEW, don't complain about AEW. If you don't watch WWE, stop complaining about WWE. To which I know people are going to say, but you talk a lot about WWE. I don't talk about the in-ring. I don't care about their in-ring. I talked about AJ Lee because she made her comeback. And it wasn't necessarily me saying her comeback is bad. Listen to it just now. It was AJ Lee's. I'm happy for her, but I'm cautious to think that this is going to lead to anything. Just because prior experience tells me otherwise. So yeah, I'm going to bring up WWE from the perspective of someone who doesn't watch the show and only catches the social media stuff. Yeah, I'm going to share my thoughts on some of the maybe non-in-ring stuff that happens, non-on-screen stuff that happens. I don't talk a whole lot about matches from any company, and don't expect me to. I just give you my opinion about the business and the shape of the industry. That's all I got for you. Let me know what you think. We'll see you next Saturday for another one of these episodes. And then the next episode after that would be a live stream on the 19th. That's a Friday. We're going to do the All Out prediction show that night. And then we'll be back the week prior, back to our regular scheduled broadcast times. We'll see y'all again here next week. I'm Junkyard James. This is the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. I'll talk to you next one. And until next week, rock the boat, stay saucy, friends.
Beyond